The big news coming in, 5 Indian Test players in isolation, according to Australian Cricket Board. Rohit Sharma, Rishabh Pant, Shubham Gill and Prithvi Shaw, along with Navdeep Saini, isolated from the squad. BCCI and Cricket Australia currently probing whether their dinner breaches COVID protocols. Here, remember, the Indian team there facing Australia. 5 Indian Test players currently in isolation. And according to the Australian Cricket Board, Rohit Sharma, Rishabh Pant, Shubman Gill, Prithvi Shaw and Navdeep Saini have been isolated from the squad. And the BCCI as well as the Cricket Australia is currently probing whether their dinner breaches this COVID protocols. It looks like that they may have stepped out for dinner, may have come in contact with other people. Currently, they're keeping utmost precaution to ensure that there isn't a spread of COVID-19. 5 Indian players have now been asked to go into isolation. In fact, 5 Indian cricketers there, including Rohit Sharma, have been put in isolation after a video emerged that they were having dinner at a Melbourne restaurant. Now, will dinner outside at a restaurant in Australia, currently considering the cricket board is very cautious about COVID-19, the spread of it, keeping their players safe. 5 of the Indian players have stepped out at to a Melbourne restaurant there to have dinner, and it appears that seemed to have breached COVID protocols. Boria Mazumdar joining us for more details on that. Boria, 5 Indian Test players there in isolation: Rohit Sharma, Rishabh Pant, Shubman Gill, Prithvi Shaw and Navdeep Saini. Has there been a regulation or a guideline that they should not be stepping out of their premises, meeting and mingling with others, of course also going out to a restaurant? Was this part of the guideline? Have they been ignorant or was it deliberate?
You've asked 3 questions there. Can they go out? Yes, they can. Can they go to a restaurant outdoor? Yes, they can. Indoor, no. Can they mingle with others outside of the team protocol? No, they can't. So that's the 3 straight answers. Is this a breach? Question number 1. And most important is, does this constitute a breach of the guidelines? We don't know that. So let us not jump the gun and say they have breached protocol. What is being done at the moment is precautionary. They have been placed in isolation because it's a precaution at this point in time is being followed by CA and BCCI. How did this come about? It came about because a fan, Navaldeep Singh, tweeted out a video of the players sitting at a distance and having their meal. And he said he's paid for their meal, and he even put out a photograph of the invoice. And then went on to say that the players asked him to take the money back. That's how this was brought to light. Whether that was indoor or outdoor, it has to be ascertained. Did the players take a photograph with him? Maybe not, because he did not put out any such photo. And today, he has actually tweeted out saying he got excited and said the players met him and they shook hands. Nothing like that happened. So does this really constitute a biosafety protocol breach is something we need to ascertain. At this point in time, it's a precautionary measure. They can continue to train, Nabila, is the more important factor. And something similar had happened at the Big Bash League with Chris Lynn and Dan Lawrence a couple of weeks back. They investigated, the players were issued a reprimand and they continued to play. But whether or not this constitutes a breach, we first have to ascertain, and then the next step will be taken.
Well, the Australian Cricket Board has decided that they must be kept in isolation. Is this just precautionary? Are they doing this with other players who are stepping out as well? Or are the only Indian players, the 5 of them who've been mentioned here, been put into isolation? Does that also mean that no other players are stepping out at all?
No. Only these 5 players are indeed stepping out. But the call is whether this constitutes a breach. Did they go to an indoor seating area in the restaurant, or were they outdoors? So there are these strict guidelines that Cricket Australia is following. So that's what will be investigated now. Only these 5 players in precautionary isolation as you and I speak, and it needs to be ascertained whether this is a biosafety protocol breach or not. At this point in time, investigation is on, and they continue to train, or they can continue to train, but separately. That's what we are getting from Cricket Australia. Whether or not this is actually a breach, we've got to wait and see. I had spoken to BCCI. BCCI thinks this is not a breach. BCCI is fairly confident that the players have not breached biosecure protocols, but an investigation is on from the Cricket Australia side.
Thank you very much, Boria Mazumdar there giving us an insight into what really happened. 5 of the Indian players there have now been kept in isolation. Now, yet to verify whether they have breached COVID protocols and the biosafety measures taken in by the cricketing board remains to be seen. But for now, we see that Rohit Sharma, Rishabh Pant, Shubman Gill, Prithvi Shaw and Navdeep Saini are currently in isolation in Australia. For more details on that, do log on to indiatoday.in. You can also